crisis with the debt ceiling. So Jason Johnson, a professor of political science at Hiram College and the chief political correspondent for Politics 365 is here. Jason, thank you so much for being here. So you say there are three things we need to be watching for that have not been resolved that could still take us into some chaotic waters here.
Right.
The first one being the debt ceiling.
Yes.
What's the status of it? And what's the deadline?
Look, this is a huge problem. We still don't have a solution for the next time we're going to have to worry about the debt ceiling, which some people will speculate will happen sometime around February or March. And if you think about it, the whole reason for these negotiations are because everyone kicked the debt ceiling problem from 2011 down the field. So the fact that they came up with a new deal but haven't solved the long-term problem, that's a real issue. Regardless if you're a Republican or Democrat, it needs to get fixed.
And people need to care about this because the U.S. credit rating was downgraded last year. Can you help people understand why it's connected and how serious this is?
Well, the U.S. credit rating is important to our overall economy because it affects how other nations want to lend us, what kind of interest they ask for, which also affects how banks lend to regular people. Now, we know with the HSBC issue, there's been issues with banks, but at the end of the day, if the United States is seen as not a safe place to put your money, then Brazil, then Russia, then China, then most of Europe, they don't want to put money here, which affects all of us being able to keep and get jobs.
All righty. The sequester, I should say, is the second issue. Walk us through that one, will you?
Well, basically, it's this idea of what money gets taken when and how in different kinds of circumstances. And really, a lot of this has been delayed. I think the large issue that people have to think about here is, what are your members of Congress doing for the long-term problems? And
they've been asking that for a while.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the problem. I mean, I think, look, the Republicans had some legitimate reasons for standing up for what they stood up for. The Democrats had legitimate reasons. But whether it's sequester, whether it's the payroll tax, it's what are you going to do so that we have a plan that works for 2 years so we're not fighting every 6 weeks about this?
When we say sequester, we're talking about some cuts that are directly tied to the debt ceiling as well, right?
Yeah, and so what you have happening is, you know, some of these cuts will be automatic. Some of them are supposed to help with the debt ceiling. I think, though, what's important is even the members of Congress who are working on this right now are trying to negotiate which things are going to be a part of the sequester and which aren't. That was some of the negotiation for the deal. So,
and when we say which things, we're talking about federal programs.
Right, which federal programs, right. So is it going to be entitlements? Is it going to be Social Security? Is it going to affect things like the military? And where do we see the military cuts? Would it be in pay? Would it be in health care? Those are the kinds of issues that the sequester really deals with.
Okay, budget resolution. I mean, people have issues doing this at home. And they can figure it out.
Right.
So I'm sure they're sitting back going, why can you not figure out a budget? And we should point out, you know, the federal government's budget, the fiscal year starts October 1st.
Right.
And as I understand, the last few years, they haven't even made it to that. I mean, on that date, they can't even make it. Right?
No. They can't come up with a budget because, generally speaking, what the White House proposes, the House doesn't like or the Senate won't really agree with. And to be perfectly honest, most Americans, unfortunately, don't really operate with budgets. Most Americans don't really save. So in a lot of ways, as much as we're unhappy about it, our government's irresponsibility with money reflects our own irresponsibility with money in our daily lives. So we get the government that we pay for and that we ask for, and that's unfortunate.
Okay, and we only have a couple of seconds left, but what's the risk here?
Well, the risk here is more chaos. The risk here is that certain parts of the sequester come into play, and there are serious cuts in education, serious cuts in healthcare, serious cuts in the military, and that we will see nothing but a consistent fight, even on the GOP side, because I think John Boehner's job is in trouble after this deal.
Do you foresee them being able to figure that out by the deadline, and what's the deadline on this one?
I don't think they're going to be able to figure it out. For the budget, they technically have for the rest of the year because we've been going without a budget for so long.
Oh my gosh. All righty. Thank you so much, Jason Johnson. It's always good to have you here to explain it all away to us. Maybe you should go to Washington. Okay. U.S. stocks surged over the news.